and welcome to the channel. Today we're with Lucy. She is very brave to come on the podcast, and
Thank you.
I'm just going to let her explain in her own words exactly what's happened. So I'll just say, welcome, Lucy.
Okay, welcome, Kevin. So I'm going to start by March 2021. My beautiful grandchildren were taken into care, and the reason was my granddaughter had one bruise. Now, the bruise, the health visitor noticed the bruise. She told my daughter-in-law to ring the doctors.
Can I just stop
The
you, Lucy? Was there any social services involvement before the bruise, or was that the?
Yeah, there was, but I think there was, yes, but I think because she had, before she got together with my son, she had a wee boy till another partner,
Right.
and when they broke up, things got a wee bit. He turned nasty, and his family was the ones that got social services involved in the first place. But I can't really talk about that because I only really want to talk. I don't want to make it about her and the ex-partner, because I want to make sure I get everything in that matters about the children. Is understandable, like. So yes, so they were involved. Like I say, the child was taken over one bruise. She rang the doctor. The doctor said she had absolutely no concerns, but because social services was involved, she had to take the child up to the hospital to get checked out. Now, the child was only about over 2 at the time, and it took 5 doctors to hold the child down to check this one bruise, and the child was traumatized. And so social services then rang the hospital to say that they were applying for an EPO, emergency protection order, and the children were taken into care. Now, me and the other nanny, the other nanny's called Donna, and I went up to the hospital, and the social worker was there, and I carried my granddaughter out to the car, and the other nanny carried the baby at the time, which was getting breastfed, so they don't care, you know. And so the social worker, anyway, she went for this court order, and my solicitor at the time, well, not my solicitor, she was my solicitor as well as the son's solicitor. She had let me in to watch the court case, which is not really allowed.
Okay, yeah.
Watching it on Zoom.
I see.
Watching it over the Zoom. And so I heard the social worker lie, and she said that my son's partner had left the hospital, leaving her 2 young children unattended, which was lies. You wouldn't be able to do that in the hospital because they have cameras in the hospital, they have security, and she was breastfeeding the child. So if you left the hospital, they would get the police. Like, it's not that simple. But that's what
would she have to book herself out to the hospital and sign a document? And surely the nurses and the doctors would be, would give evidence that she was actually there and didn't leave the hospital.
Yeah, but the thing is, her mum, the children's other nanny, was up at the hospital to let her go home to take a bath and change clothes, because we were all in shock. We couldn't believe what was happening, like. You kind of think, you hear all the time, children get abused all the time, but one bruise, you would say, that there was no evidence that either of them put that bruise on the child.
And your son had no criminal record previously to this, and no warrant.
No
There was no
criminal record
surrounding him at all.
And his partner had no criminal record. My son actually was working in Tesco's at the time. And like I say, the detective had called him out of Tesco's. He had to go home, and they were photographing the whole home on different items in the home that possibly they say that could have left the bruise on the child. It wasn't even that, wasn't even a huge bruise. Like, it was like a long, thin line bruise.
So you say they were photographing
in my
items in the
head.
home. What type of items were they actually photographing in? Things that they think would be used as a weapon?
Yeah, well, I mentioned the snooker cue. It was hanging on the wall. And the detective, he was called Andrew at the time. He said to my son, well, what's that up in the case you've got up on your wall? And my son said, oh, that's my snooker cue. And he says, well, he said, can you lift it down? And my son said, no, because you can clearly tell by the dust along the top that it hasn't been taken down in quite some time. So my son said to the detective then, if you want to photograph it that badly, take it down yourself, because you can get framed. Well, I'm not saying it happens, but he wasn't willing to take that chance.
I would film every single police officer and social worker that come into my home now, after what I've witnessed and what I've heard other people explain what's happened to their own families. Yeah, I wouldn't trust them for 1 second with anything.
But it's crazy because they also were taken out and interviewed in different cells in the police station. And I was actually in with the son's partner. And when it went to the public prosecutioner, they sent the letter back that it wasn't going to go any further because there simply wasn't enough evidence. And so we thought, gosh, after that, we got to give the children back after that because they haven't got, but no. So after them being in care for 6 weeks, they had changed their doctors. They didn't even tell them that they've changed.
They were already planning to take the children 100%.
They were already planning.
Even though there was no evidence to any injury being caused by your son or his partner. It was actually cleared by the police, but they still used it to remove the child.
They used it to remove the children.
And you could see from what they were doing and making arrangements for doctors and schools and whatnot that it was already planned that the child wasn't coming home at all.
She wasn't coming home. And so then in the court cases, then the last time I seen my granddaughter, she was about 2.5, or maybe a wee bit over 2.5. And the last time I seen her, she had a black eye.
Really?
Now, the social worker had Miss Duffy. I'll just say Miss Duffy. I don't want to say full names. But the social worker at the time was called Miss Duffy. And she told me and the child's nanny that the child ran into the foster carer's table. And that's where she got the black eye. So I thought,
how interesting, Lucy, that when is an injury when it's in your son and daughter's care, or there's something sinister going on, when is an injury in the foster carer's care, or it's 100% not a foster carer's fault.
It's 100.
Everybody's a human, everybody has the same rights.
Yeah. And I thought, no, this is not good enough. So I went over and I put my first complaint in. And when I got the complaint back, I have it in front of me somewhere. And she wrote down, she did not recall the child sustaining a black eye whilst in foster care. But the thing is, we took a photograph. I have that photograph of my granddaughter with a big black eye. So I can't deny it. It's crazy. I wasn't accepting it. I was like, well, how is it possible that we're made to accept that we lost our son, lost his daughter, I lost my grandchild over one bruise? Over one bruise, there was no evidence to suggest that either my son or his partner had hurt his child in any way. So why would we then accept the granddaughter has a black eye? And so we weren't willing to accept that. And I put in the complaint to social services. We sat around in the meeting, as you do, and I passed the photograph of the child's black eye. And they brushed it off. Well, I would say it's a wee mark. They didn't You know, they didn't want to say it's a black eye because obviously a black eye sounds bad.
Yeah.
So
They
they
played it all
brushed it
out.
off
Yeah.
as a remark.
Yeah. That's absolutely
You know?
shocking. Yeah, to see the
Yeah,
difference, the way they treated obviously the care worker compared to your own son. And your own
yeah,
son has no record. Yeah, they always
yeah,
think the worst. Yeah, when it comes to a member of the public, but obviously then when
yeah,
it comes to somebody who's a member of their staff or their colleague, they obviously think the utmost best of that person, and they couldn't have possibly
yes,
done anything wrong. Yeah,
yeah. And then when I put in the complaint, myself and my son put in the complaint, then she writes on the complaint that she has no recall of the child sustaining a black eye whilst in foster care. So who is she hiding? What is she protecting? Because she wasn't protecting my grandchild, my son's
yeah.
daughter, you
Well,
know,
she
because
didn't know how he sustained the injury. She sustained the injury. She obviously wasn't watching the child. You know,
yeah,
I will say
yeah,
though, we were all children once. We all got in scrapes. We had bruises on us. Some of these things
yeah,
are very innocent. Some of them obviously are not.
yeah,
Yeah, you understand that they can't take a chance, but to point fingers like they did at your son with no criminal record
yeah,
against his name whatsoever, it looks as though they were looking for a reason to take the child. Yeah, to me,
yeah.
from an outsider's view. Yeah,
Yeah, and it's funny because then they went on to, further on down the line, they said that the child had been traumatized somewhere down the line, and then they stopped them from seeing the child. So it went back to court after that, and our solicitors fought, obviously, and they said that they were going to give 3 months for the child to do some therapy, whatever therapy was needed. And so they were supposed to give updates on how the child was progressing and what have you. They never ever received any updates.
really.
So it was probably all made up, and it was
Mm.
probably fabricated to just to keep the child away from her daddy.
Suit their own agenda. Yeah.
It was actually confirmed by an English woman that done assessments with my son and his daughter, or my son and his partner, sorry,
Yeah.
and they had said that the child had suffered separation anxiety.
Well, that's their doing then. Yeah.
That's their doing, but they're not gonna, they're not gonna admit to that. I know they're not gonna admit to that,
Yeah.
but because then again, they don't want to be held accountable.
That's the thing. See, they use this thing: risk of emotional harm, future harm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they use this as some kind of guesswork, even in your own
Mm-hmm.
son situation. Nothing had happened beforehand, but then they've used the fact that they've removed the child from your son and his partner, which has obviously
Yeah.
affected the child. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they will probably try to point fingers and say that this emotional harm was caused before this removal, which has got to be the most traumatic experience, or one of them you can ever imagine for a child, a young child.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, they
Now,
spit it all back onto you and your family. Yes, when they
now
think
the child has been removed from she was about 2.5. And my son's daughter is now 7, and he hasn't seen her, doesn't know how she's getting on. One of the things that they said in court was my son and his partner didn't have the child registered with a doctor. That's one thing. They made a massive big deal out of that. But my son at the time, they were moving house, they were getting ready to move house, and at the time they found the child's medical card. So you wouldn't have a medical card if the child wasn't registered with a doctor. You're not going, obviously she was, because they wouldn't have had a medical card otherwise. But the thing is, then they held that against my son in the courthouse. And one of the things was they came out where my son's daughter had lost weight. My grandchild had lost weight. Now the Guardian had come out with this. oh, well, she had lost weight at one stage. Well, we don't ever recall her losing any weight. And so we were like, well, you're saying that the child wasn't registered with a doctor.
She was,
So if that, she was registered with a doctor, but they said she wasn't. So
yeah.
we're like, well, if that's the case, where are you getting your information from if you're coming out where she's losing weight? When we asked, where are you getting this information from? Because we don't recall her losing any weight, they can't answer you.
Yeah.
Like you're left with, you're not even getting an answer. They're completely thanking you.
They won't give her an answer.
So
They won't give
it's
her an answer,
really bad.
or write these type of things on documents just in case they incriminate themselves in the future. See, they just cover in their backsides in
Yeah,
advance, just in case,
yeah,
because they know that what will happen if they admit to some of the things that go wrong within their care. But
yeah,
again, to lie about the child or anything that happens around the child is child abuse within itself. So we are paying
yeah.
these councils to pretty much abuse our child, mentally damage our children and extended family. And when does it stop? It just
It
keeps going
doesn't
on and on
stop.
and on.
And then further on down the line again, they had in the reports that the child had come out with another allegation and that the police was investigating it. And we got, I myself personally got in contact with the detective that was, you know, the detective that was there at the start when the child was forced taken. And I rang him up and I said, look, they're coming out with these new allegations. Our legal teams had requested 5 times what these new allegations were. They got no response, but they had it in the report, black and white. So I got in contact with the detective and I said, can you please ring the social worker and ask what these new investigation allegations are? And he had got back to me and he had said, no, there's no new allegations has been made. So then I put in another complaint. I says, how come this, how come there is more you are writing down in the report about allegations? You have absolutely nothing to back these up. And how come you are getting away with it? And then again, there's no answers. No, you know, it's crazy. But what really annoys me, they can write this now. My son, there's no court case now because in this June coming, the adoption will be finalised, which is heartbreaking for us because we didn't do anything wrong. So like we are thinking now, I'm trying my best now to get some sort of accountability. We want now that I've wrote another complaint and I'm saying now that we are now looking at accountability. So somebody has to take accountability. I'm not letting this go.
Of course.
And when I had to lift the child out of the hospital in my arms and social worker, and she looked at me in the eyes and she said, I'm only doing my job. I said, no. I looked at her straight in the eyes and I said, we will have our justice.
Yeah.
And fighting back the pain and the hurt, and but it's just unreal what they can do, what they can get away with. It's crazy.
There's zero
It's
accountability.
absolutely crazy.
They can write things on their own documents and present it to a family court judge. Things that are very serious, things that are crimes regarding children. And I'll say it again, without
Yeah,
reporting any of the stuff to the police, they can put it in the court without you being able to answer. You're innocent until proven guilty, I thought, but you're guilty until
yeah.
proven innocent.
Without like my son and his partner didn't get the chance to stand up to defend themselves.
Yes.
The solicitor was supposed to be doing it for them. All along, they're all in with it.
Yes.
That
100%.
just our solicitor, just a few months before the final court case last June 23rd, 2024, which was they were given the free order for adoption. And just less than a month, our solicitor had pulled out. So we had to go then and look for a whole new legal team. And the new legal team got was absolutely no good. And she was like to me, well, they're saying your son's not capable. And I was like, I don't care what they're saying. I says professionals can write what they like.
And what's very
They're
suspicious,
getting
Lucy,
paid.
obviously your son has got you in the background. You could be there to help with
Yeah,
the children. You are
yeah,
obviously support that
yeah,
some
absolutely.
people don't have.
Yeah,
I don't understand why you can't
yeah. But
advocate it
like,
yourself.
I think it's crazy that my son worked. My son worked from the day an Irish child was born. He not only supported his own child, but two stepsons that wasn't his.
Right.
The daddy of the two stepsons doesn't want, he's away in New Zealand somewhere living. He doesn't want to know these boys. He's happy enough. Oh, I'm happy enough they're going for adoption. That was his response. But in the meantime, my son is not only heartbroken over his child, but heartbroken over two stepsons are calling him daddy. And he still gets to see them boys, but doesn't get to see his own child. I can't,
That's insane.
well, the step boys they're going for adoption too, the step boys. But my son still gets to see them, but he doesn't get to see his own child. And the guardian came out one day and she had a photo on a video on her phone, or maybe it was a tablet. I'm not sure what it was. I'll just say a phone. I think it was a phone of my son's child crying, saying that she didn't want to see her daddy. Now, to me, that is an emotional abuse.
That is abuse. That's abuse of your son as well, to show him that. That's
Yeah.
disgraceful.
And it was supposed to be shown all over the courthouse to all the legal representations, and it wasn't. And it wasn't even mentioned in the court.
So they just done that to emotionally hurt your son, then, basically.
Yeah.
And you know what I noticed as well with a lot of these cases? They turn the children against the parents. They say you are not
Yeah.
with your parent because you were dad or you were mom is sick,
Because they were
naughty.
saying sick.
Mm.
Yeah, they were saying that my son's daughter didn't want to see him, and I don't believe that, because my son's daughter, like, I have photographs of him and his daughter on my phone, and she's very content with her daddy. So they do turn children, away from their.
They drive as big a wedge between parents and their children as they possibly can. They don't just do that. They tear families apart by saying this person, and then you've got to be like, oh, do I believe the police, or do I believe children's services, or believe a family member? It tears families completely apart, because some people don't realize what these people, police, children's services, family courts, are actually capable of, and they will think, well, you must have done something wrong because you've lost everything, and they don't really realize exactly what goes on and how much money's in the system and exactly why these children get taken. And I'm not saying that some children shouldn't be taken, and they're picking on people now to balance their books. Yeah.
And then if you look, I think they've brainwashed my son's daughter. They've brainwashed that child.
Yes.
So she doesn't want to see her daddy, which is emotional abuse.
Which they can then use in the court. They can use that in the court then to say, look, the child doesn't even want to see the parent, which obviously is going to make the judge or the guardian think, okay, then we'll keep the child away from the parent. And that's a situation they've caused themselves by their own emotional abuse of a child.
Yeah, and then it's absolutely crazy, because at one stage the judge was going on about how much money was cost on the whole court case of the thing. And I'm thinking, well, you can't put a price in a family. Like, why would you? You'd think that it was coming out of his pocket, like, it's crazy, man. It's just
They shouldn't talk about money. When it comes to children, you need to go to court and you need to discuss every incident, dig into it, get deep into it, see exactly what's happened there for the judge to make his decision. If he's telling you I'm restricted by time and money, then obviously things are not being done properly within the family court.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was a time I remember I was out in my son's house and the social worker called and there was two health visitors with her. And she sat down, they all sat down, and she came out with this. I want to talk about your daughter is making herself sick. Now, you're talking about a 2.5-year-old child that is apparently sticking her fingers down her throat and making herself sick. So I said to the social worker, I said, well, tell me this. I said, Miss Duffy, I says, how long have you known this for? She turned around, she told me, 2 weeks. So I'm like, so you know this for 2 weeks, that my son's daughter, my granddaughter, has been making herself sick for 2 weeks. And you're only coming telling us that now. And the two health visitors sat there and they looked at one another and they did not know what to say. And I turned around and I said straight to her face, you are disgusting. That was my words back to her.
Yes.
Unreal. Now,
they're probably worried. They're probably worried that you would probably use that, to say, look, my child is really struggling. This, is come out in this way. She's making herself sick, and you could probably use that against children's services in some way. So they would play all that down. Yeah, if they can't blame it on you,
yeah.
to
So
make
we
sure
had
that
all,
they can't
we
complain
had
about
all,
you.
yeah. So we had all these down, 4 complaints. These is all the letters. Obviously, I'm not going to read them all, but you can see there's 1,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. And it says in the end of it that they are sorry that many of our questions we put to them are still unanswered. They're unanswered because they have no answers for us.
Well, they'd incriminate themselves if they did answer them.
Yeah. And that's why we're not, so after
dealing with you.
Four complaints and countless meetings, we still have no justification. If you want to, that's probably the best way to put it. No justification.
Do you think, Lucy, that you could be doing these complaints and other things for another 5 years and still not get anywhere?
That's it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know now where my son can, and they told him he had no appeal. Now, a while back, a different court case with my daughter and her wee boy went for a freeing order as well.
You've frozen there. There we go.
Sorry.
That's okay.
So, yes, we was at another court case a while back with my daughter because she lost her wee son till she was a victim of domestic abuse, and they took my daughter's son at the hospital when he was born, and he's with 2 gay men.
Really?
And the day I went to that court case, the barrister was the same barrister that was in my son's court case, and she was able to tell me, oh, there was such a big injustice done on Christian and his partner. And I goes, how come it was that so big of an injustice that there was no grounds for an appeal? Yes. And then again, nobody can give you any answers.
Yeah. I think that you can make all the complaints because you've got something on them. They can't let them go anywhere. So your complaints, you're just banging it against a brick wall, basically.
But I want to I feel, I know it sounds crazy, but I feel God has placed upon my heart to be a voice for the young women that are losing their babies over this domestic abuse. There's no support for them.
I say that. Well, doing stuff like exposing these people is God's work. Yeah, it is God's work.
Yeah, definitely.
These people are soulless. I think some of them need to go back to hell, where I think they came from. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've found faith during what they've done.
I have faith that God's wrath is coming upon the wicked.
Yes.
And I think they're going to be, judgment day is coming for them. Well,
And
it's coming for us all.
we're just the messengers telling them what's coming their way because of all
Yeah,
the. You don't
yeah,
hurt children. You do not hurt children. You do not lie about children. You do not
no,
tear communities apart and families apart. And that goes for grandparents, aunties, uncles, brothers, sisters,
yeah,
separating families
and
and children. You don't get away with
and
it.
no, and you know what? A while, not I'm talking just a couple of months back, my son was clearing out all the children's stuff. He actually paid £50 for somebody to come and take all the stuff to the dump. And I'm 20 black bags of children's clothes. So for children to be neglected, not looked after, there's children out there and they don't have 2 black bags of clothes, not alone 20 odd, and a brand new bicycle that the child never got it. And I was just, I don't know, he says, Mommy, I can't, you sort that. And me and my son and his partner, we had it. And that was heartbreaking for me. I don't know how he felt, but for me, just as a grandmother, like I was all choked up and and they don't care, it's not into their back. So it's not into them.
They're totally
But
desensitized. They cause so much damage to so many families over such a long period of time that some of them have been there for years. They're
yeah,
so
and
desensitized. It's nothing to them to lie.
yeah, yeah. And I know like there's probably more families out there. There's probably more families out there in Northern Ireland as well.
Yeah.
And they probably just had given up, probably in the same situation, but probably think, there's nothing they can do.
Well, this is what
And
you get. They start speaking up, and then they'll have a
yeah,
gag. They'll have a gag order put on them. They'll have restrictions put on them. Yeah,
yeah.
and then that makes them so afraid to even speak that these
But
people push people over the edge to suicide. Parents,
yeah,
because they make them
yeah,
feel so hopeless and useless, and they just tell them the truth.
yeah,
They can't win.
yeah. Well, that's it. I want to do what the English is doing. I want to go on the streets and I have a big banner. I get a big banner made, injustice to my family and social services to be held accountable for their lives and their actions. But I can't do it on my own. If it's only me, it's not,
Well, I
you
found
know,
this out recently. Okay, there's a lot of groups on Facebook. I know you're on one of
there
them.
is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good people there from all around the country. I'm sure if you
Yeah.
said let's get a protest together, I'm sure you could get 10 to 20 people to come there, make a bit of noise, send some messages to these people, and
Yeah, but
build
yeah, but
something in Northern Ireland. You know what I mean?
that's what I'm saying. But Northern Ireland's not like England. It's totally different. People don't want it. They don't have that up and go and the fight back. They don't have the maybe years ago, when the troubles was in Northern Ireland, it was a whole different ball game that would have been different then. But now, like and the fact that they want to take this filth into the schools and teach 5-year-olds about how to pleasure themselves and all the rest,
It
it's
does
just
make you wonder who exactly is running this country, because the values that we've held as Irish, Welsh, Scottish, English people for hundreds of years are all of a
yeah,
sudden being torn apart.
yeah,
What's driving it? Why are they? Obviously, no sane parent is going to say, "I want my 5-year-old child to have sex education." Yeah, to teach them
no,
about
it's
all these
crazy.
genders and to just confusing little children. Why don't you just let them be little children, natural
No,
little things, find their own way? Yeah, you
yeah,
can't put them into this box and that box because children don't fit in boxes like that.
you
They're all
know.
unique.
And it's funny because before Christmas, um, just before Christmas, somebody put up something about a paedophile, and I made a comment underneath it. Is that where our hard-earned tax money's going? And the next minute, our phone was shut down like that.
Really?
It was crazy.
I've
Phone
never heard
just
that.
went crazy, and my daughter goes to me, Mom, you're not getting back into your phone. You do realize that? And I was like,
Really?
watch me. It took me 3 hours, but I got back in.
Yeah, see, people are so afraid to even put something on Facebook, put something online, because You'll have a knock on the door of the police, and sometimes that's enough to put somebody off. When there's a couple of police knocking on your door, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. It's happened to me. Yeah, and they drag you down the cell, keep you there for 24 hours, ask you some questions about things, and that's punishment on its own, and that's enough to scare some people. It doesn't scare me like it used to. It used to scare me, but it doesn't anymore.
Yeah.
I just read a book and go to sleep.
There was another incident too with the social worker, which I thought she used to come out when the child was being potty trained, and she used to come out to supervise the contact, and she would be standing watching the child going on her potty, and the child would actually be putting her hands up over her eyes like this here, and the child was nervous and wet her pants, and then she was trying to make out then that the child was uncomfortable going to the toilet in her parents' house. And I put in the complaint that she's abusing her power. But that's what they do then, people. They abuse their power.
Yes, they do.
And they're getting away with it.
Yeah. I used to think that children's services was a service, yeah. If you had a few problems, they'd come along, they'd point you on the straight track, they'd help and support you with your family.
Yeah.
That is the exact opposite of what they do. They look for weaknesses. If there aren't any weaknesses, they will find them. These people could make Gandhi, seem like Hitler, just with a few, words, taps of a keyboard or a few words on a piece of paper. They can destroy somebody with a few sentences just because you've offended them, just because you've shown them up, because you know something they don't. For whatever reason, even if they don't like you personally, they can destroy you. And there's no, as you said, when they do that, and there's no accountability. You can't even prove your side of the story, because who are you going to show it to? You can't show it in the family court judge. You can't get them through the complaints. It's pathetic. It's hopeless. It's pathetic. It's a system they've set up themselves, and they've twisted it this way themselves to get away with it.
Yeah. And they're actually failing. The ones that really needs them, they're actually failing. Like, you just have to look in the internet every day. There's a child down in the arms, abusive parents all the time. And,
it's always baffled me how they're so overzealous with some people, some good families and good people that I know, and I've known for years, but yet then they leave a child in such a dangerous situation, missing all these opportunities. And it's like, how can that even happen? It's the same rules for every single social services office around the country. If something's a risk to them, it's a risk to them, I don't understand.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I had social services when my children were growing up. And then my son, when I started to work as a single mom, he was putting my children out to school for me. And the social worker would come and she would see him getting the children dressed, breakfast, and what have you. And they were happy enough. So, they already know my son. They know he's more than capable. But they're not going to say that, because then it's making them look bad, and then they have to answer to it. And they don't want to do all that.
Well, of course.
It's crazy.
It is. But, the future, what do you plan to do in the future then? Obviously, you're going to keep fighting these people. You're going to...
I'm going to keep fighting. Hopefully, ideally, I would like to get on TV, but that's proven very difficult, because if I know that sounds terrible, but if I probably was an alpedo, I probably would have more chance of getting on the TV, because that's the way it seems to, like Jimmy Savile and all of the BBC.
Yes.
It's crazy.
There seems to be, I don't know, in this country now, there seems to be lack of care for children and women. Right? I don't know where it's come from, but it seems to be all of a sudden these things are happening. Or I'm noticing them now in these last few years, which maybe I didn't notice them before. Maybe they were going on, but there seems to be a downgrade of women and children, value of life. From the police, children's services, the courts, from the government as a whole.
Yeah. And it seems to be like the pedophiles seem to be more protected. They seem to be more protected than children, when it should be the other way around.
They're having the most serious child images you can have, like Class A child images, and they get in suspended sentences and things.
Yes,
Where I don't
crazy.
really want to live in a country, right,
No,
where paedophiles don't go to prison, because
I
if
know.
there's no deterrent for that, I also know from my own experience, there's no deterrent for somebody actually hitting a newborn baby in the head and admitting to it. Okay, when there's no deterrence for these type of things, that's when good people like you and me get angry.
Stuff.
Right? We
Yeah.
might not handle it in the right way. Sometimes you might, rant on Facebook and say some wrong words and things, But
Well, it's
obviously,
like,
it's got to go
obviously
somewhere.
it's a righteous anger we have, obviously, because
I believe.
it makes my blood boil when I see a child down in the hands of abusive parents when social workers are involved and could have stepped in, saved that child, and they let that child down. And there's me losing my grandchild over one bruise that was accidental.
Have you
Yeah,
noticed though, the only time you ever hear about social services failures is when it's been, it's happened years ago. It's been dragged through the courts by the family. Then it's so heinous and bad that it will make it to the press, and then the public will hear about it. But until that point, the public won't even hear about it or what's going on.
wondering.
Go on.
I'm just wondering if because my son was born in England, is there a chance that they could ask for a trial to be held over there, or what their UK rights would be? Is
Because you're
that
in
possible?
because you're in Northern Ireland, that is part of the UK, so it's the same jurisdiction. I think no
Yeah,
matter
but
where you lived, you'd have to deal with your own local children's services department, I think.
yeah, but they say that that Northern Ireland is part of the UK. But when you go to find out things, they tell you no, it's not. Whole different
Well,
ball
they
game.
are planning by stealth to make Ireland one country again, and I think they maybe
Yeah,
judicially and maybe in the council type of thing, maybe they've have started doing that then by listening to you there. Yeah, I've heard some crazy, well, some disgusting stories from Republic of Ireland, from Northern Ireland, yeah, from Scotland, from all over.
yeah,
I think there's not much difference between these people. They all go from the same rule book. Their rules are given to them by
yeah,
government, and they all know what they can get away with. And it's the way I think it with a council.
yeah,
If a council's in debt, they'll think, "Oh, we put the council tax up by 10%." Or we'll start charging parking tickets in this street that we never charged parking tickets in before. Or we'll take, where we took
yeah,
200 children into care last year, we'll take 300 children into care this year. Yeah.
yeah,
Not based on any kind of
yeah,
reality, just sheer numbers and profit, balancing books
yeah,
and their bonuses as well.
yeah. They're the ones. They're the ones that's prophesying. Yeah. I just want to see. I just want to check. Is there anything that I haven't spoke about?
Yeah.
Um, because I think I've wanted to say everything that I have said. Um,
Well, what you've said
yeah,
so far
but
is
they are
basically
that.
children's services have turned up because of an injury to a child. They've then thought the actual worst of people who have got no criminal record, removed that child, blocked all complaints, and leave a family, you know, so stressed out, so close to the edge that basically the only thing that you think you can do is go after them and expose them, knowing that you're going to get yourself in trouble, possibly for doing that,
Uh,
which is, yeah,
yeah, well, that's it. What do you do? Or what? You can't sit back and do nothing.
some do.
That's not me. That's not in me.
I know.
It's
Well,
not in
me,
me
me,
to
me
sit back
personally,
and
Lucy,
do
I'm on a
nothing. I
suspended
have to
sentence. Yeah,
continue
I'm on a
fighting.
suspended sentence to
That's
do with
my
these people.
journey.
Yeah, I'm on a suspended sentence to do with these people, and I'm also on bail to do with these people right now as I sit here. So they're coming for me, and when they come for me, that's when the real fight starts. Because I go down
Yeah,
swinging, not violently for my children, but I ain't gonna go quietly, and I can use my well, I
yeah,
don't know, limited intelligence, okay, right, to protect my
yeah,
children, even at the expense of myself, which I'm willing to do now. Yeah, which I was before as
yeah.
well. I just didn't realize it'd go this far, to be honest. And
I'd be the same.
there's thousands and
I'd be,
thousands of people. Yeah, I know it's hopeless.
yeah,
And I put an advert on, as you know, on that site. I've had probably 500 people come to me and say that they'd like to be interviewed and don't care that if they go to prison over it. So That says a
Yeah,
lot.
I don't care. That's why when you text me and asked me that I want my face blocked out, my voice changed, I said no. I am exposing, and
Yeah.
I haven't, like I say, I haven't put anything up in the forced adoptions in a while. Um, I emailed the mass truth one time on TikTok, but this, I don't know what happened to email. It sent me an email saying you didn't put an address or something, so I'm assuming
I've done.
that didn't go to. But just keep trying. That's all we can do.
Well,
Keep fighting.
I can tell from talking to you, Lucy, that you were never going to give up, and
No.
yeah, of course. But some people, right, and I'll say this as well. Out of all the people that did contact me, 90% of them are women, which did surprise me a lot
Yeah.
because you hear that usually the family court is against the man in the family court system. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's
it was
because
changed.
I think it might
I
be
think
because
it's changed.
the men are too afraid to speak up. I think, and I don't know why that would be because men should be men. If something needs to be said to protect the child, there's not many men left anymore. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it was years ago.
Our wee granddaughter, she comes every weekend and she loves her uncle. And it's hard for me to watch the way he is because I'd be thinking that should be him and his daughter, you know? And it's when I see somebody walking down the street holding their child's hand, I'm thinking that should be my son, you know? It's very hard, you know?
It hurts me, for the first year when I'd see a family laughing and it filled me with pain,
Yeah.
and that's the most natural thing to be a parent.
I look in my son's eyes and I see his pain through his eyes, and that kills me.
Yeah,
That kills me.
yeah,
It's hard, you know, it's hard. And he's a good lad, my son. He still works now, he still kept his job going. He's learning to drive, and he's get you know, he's keeping himself busy, because I think if he didn't keep himself busy, then
yeah.
I'd be really, really concerned,
The worst thing you can do is just sit there, and just constantly go over things in your mind all the time. You have got to focus on other things, and you
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
fair play
Well,
to him.
I have tried the newspapers. They didn't want to know. I
I've done that.
have wrote to Downing Street, no reply.
Yep, done that.
I have I've wrote to that many places. I've wrote to that many places that I forget how many places I actually wrote to, but no replies,
Do you
because
know what? I think you could spend a whole year writing emails and things to these
I think it
to these
just goes in the
councils and
bin.
these authorities, and you won't get a response half the
Yeah,
time. Especially if you hit the nail on the head and it's something they can't answer, they won't answer it anyway.
yeah,
They can just pretend
yeah,
they never had it. Because who are you going to
yeah,
go? What who are you going to go to and say these people ain't responding to my emails? Nobody cares. There's nothing you can do to stop them not responding.
yeah.
Yeah, we need to drain the swamp. Half of these police officers high up in there, they are the problems. Half of these social workers high up in the social services are the problems. We need to
Yeah,
get rid of some of these managers, service managers, and CEOs, replace them with decent people like yourself. And we know then that
yeah.
children will not be hurt for profit because
That's
somebody like yourself couldn't do
yeah.
that. And I can't understand how anybody can, but yet
No.
I'm faced with them every day.
Yeah, I know it's terrible. I made a promise to myself that I will not stop till that social worker gets a sack. I don't know how I'm going to do it yet, and I'm not stopping until she gets a sack.
Yeah, because not just that, she's damaged your family. She's probably damaging other people's families. People like that
Yeah,
should not be in any kind of position within the community.
no,
In fact, they should be looking for bars, in my opinion.
yeah. But you know what? In half the time, their lies and their corruption is plain to see that they're lying, but
Yeah,
still
You,
getting
you can
there.
see you can see they haven't got a care in the world because you think, oh, I wouldn't do that because, well, you wouldn't do that anyway. It's not in your soul. But if you've done something so bad, you think, oh, there's consequences by it. But they just do things so blasely, right, that they know there's no consequences. They
Yeah,
know that they've got away with this many, many times before. Yeah, and their manager, if they make a mistake, is not going to like say you've made a mistake. It's going to be like, oh, how are we going to cover up that then?
yeah,
At the expense of a child, leaving a child open to, as I said the last time, possible sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, just based on their lives, basically, and leaving children in such vulnerable situations.
yeah.
Yeah.
Now my son and his partner, they got a brand new house, and their house, they put all the money into their home for the children. Their home was immaculate, so it wasn't like they were coming out and the home was absolute shams or dirty or unclean. It was a brand new home. It was done up to the best you get. Um, their living room was like a nursery. And like I say, they done family work in the family centre in Newry. They done work. They got brilliant reports. And then all of a sudden, when good were in, social services put a complete end to it. And they said they called them out. They stopped the work that they were doing in the family centre because they knew that the children would have to be given back. So they
Yeah.
put an end to it.
So they sabotaged then your son's good
They
work to get his children back, even
sabotaged.
though he shouldn't have been put in that position anyway. Because
I know some cases where they have removed children and the background moved them children and the parents were known to have criminal backgrounds. So I know that maybe that's a wee bit different. I don't know. But when you
well,
have two,
again, that would depend on what type of crimes them people have done, how recent them crimes are.
yeah,
Yeah, if somebody has
exactly.
got
But
no criminal record, that
that,
it doesn't
yeah,
make any sense. There's got to be a pattern of behaviour for them to be able to go to court and say, look, this is a pattern of behaviour,
yeah.
right? That's
And the best about it was now I didn't think this forced adoption thing was. I thought, no, gosh, no, that these people are exaggerating. And
I
then
think
when you're in that situation yourself, and my son and his partner didn't sign any papers for their children to be adopted, and they didn't
really,
have to because the judge smack bang granted.
really, I thought they would have had
Crazy.
to sign something. No,
Yeah.
it's unreal.
No, they didn't sign anything. They didn't agree to sign anything. So
That's shocking.
it is,
Yeah.
is.
Well, were you're saying, do you want to come back on in the near future for an update or something like that? Maybe in a few months, or just to let us know,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing complaints and you're doing other things, and
I know this June, which is, it's not going to be long. That what are we in? February, March, April, June. June is the finalized of their adoption. And I know there was new laws come out there, I think, where birth parents are allowed more contact
okay.
with adopted children. So I'm trying to get the solicitor now to sort something out so my son can have that relationship back with his daughter. That's what I'm hoping anyway. That's what I
So
think.
how many years now then? It's about 5 years then since your son's seen his daughter.
My son hasn't seen his daughter from she was two
2021.
and a half,
Yeah.
and now she'll be 7 this July.
So it's been 4 years at least then. That's You'd think you'd have to be some serious criminal, a real bad guy, not to see your own children for 4 years.
Yeah.
It seems somebody without a criminal record now can have all
And
this
I'm
done to them.
saying
Yeah.
neither him or the partner is a criminal record, and I just don't get it. Like, when I say to when they done the work in the Farndale Family Centre, it was in Belfast, and they live in Newry, and they both don't drive, and they were going up and down, I think 3 times a week, and they were delighted with them. They were willing to give them a place, a residential place in there with their children for a certain time, whatever time they needed, to assess them and get the children back. And it was a complete just blank, no reason given, just the trust won't allow it, social services won't allow it, that's it, bang, smack, no.
I'll say that again. Children's services have taken all the easy pickings, the easy hanging fruit with the children that are in danger. Obviously, some of them need to be removed. Now, to balance their books, they need to take children that are not in danger. So they will push things to make children seem like they're in danger, to get that child into care for the profit, the bonuses, we did have a gentleman on here last week that explained how one person who used to be involved in a council owns 48 different adoption agencies on his own. That's the level of corruption we're talking about here. And obviously doing that right under the noses of the government, the police, and everybody in that area. Yeah, so they're entrenched, and you're going to have to work hard to get them out of there. They've dug themselves in, as they say.
Yeah. I think that they're working for the elites, the ones that hold the power.
Yes.
I can't say that,
The further you go down the rabbit hole, if you would say that to me a year ago, I would be like, no, maybe not. But the further you go down the rabbit hole, and you follow the money and you follow, I agree with you. This possibly is not just for profit. Maybe this is social engineering as well,
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know you're going to be okay, Lucy. I can see how strong you are, okay, through everything.
Thank you.
I know this. Before we go, then, is there anything you can think of that you want to add? Are you happy? Are you happy with the way the interview has gone? Are you?
I'm so happy. I didn't think it'd be as relaxed as it was. I thought, because I was really, I
was more nervous than you. I told you. I told you.
Yeah, I think you're done okay. I hope we're done okay.
Good. Did you feel a lot better just getting some of that stuff off your chest? Because I did.
I do, but also if I don't know, I'm kind of hoping it may lead to something else. Maybe it won't, maybe it will, I don't know, but I'm kind of hoping
somebody will see this and live locally.
Somebody will see this and think, well, hold on a minute, this is not on, It's like I need to.
It only takes a few people to spark something, to create something,
And I believe in
God.
God.
Doesn't matter if 10,000 people don't watch a video. If 300 people watch a video, and one of them people tells this person, and then maybe that can start a ball rolling.
And I'm a great believer in God, and God can open doors that we can only imagine. So
you are God's soldier. That's what
I hope so. I don't always get it right. I'm not always perfect, but
nobody's perfect, okay? But as long as your heart is in the right place and you're on the side of good, okay, and you always try to do what's right by your children. Is that?
I'm a headache.
A headache,
Yeah.
My mother used to be a headache, but I miss her so bad, I'd accept a headache every day, no problem at all, to see my mother again.
Well, this headache's fighting for justice, so
you've got a good strong family. You've got a good strong family.
This headache ain't going away.
I think they've messed with the wrong people there, okay?
Yeah.
And I think they've realized that now as well, and that's good.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Lucy. You're an absolute star.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, as I said, I'll give you a buzz in maybe in a few weeks, and maybe for an update. If you want to come back on and update us on something.
Yeah, I might do. Yeah.
Cracking.
No bar.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bye bye.